SMG4 has recently started an arc known as the Karen arc, and it looks fantastic so far. It's almost like SMG4 finally decided to cook for once and serve as a fully fledged start to a character delving storyline. And one of those characters which I'll be talking about in particular is, you guessed it, Karen. The character which started off as an irrelevant side character who worked at McDonald's, to the main character of an entire arc, featuring Mario, a Hitman corporation, and also lore. Yep, you heard that right, lore. And better yet, let's try to solve this lore. I'm your host, Megalio. Let's get into it. Originally, Karen was a underpaid wage slave, represented as a recurring side character in SMG4's episodes. Back then, which was around the 2023 period, we also knew that Karen had 3 kids, Corey, Zach, and Katie. But as time went on through the SMG4 series, Karen started to become more than just a side character. This began with the episode We Must Kill Mario, an episode which you could argue to be the start of the Karen arc, as this is where the corporation known as Hitman Inc. is introduced. This is then followed by Mario Teaches Parenting, The Father of All Time, and finally Hobo Mario, which aren't actually episodes connected one after another like you'd expect it to be, because this Karen arc isn't actually official. Rather, it's just a bunch of episodes which contribute to the Karen lore or build development to Karen's character. So let's slow down for a moment, not get too sidetracked, and take a look at these episodes one by one, in order to slowly build a deeper understanding on the Karen lore. Starting off with We Must Kill Mario, this episode introduces us to how Karen quit her job at an unknown Hitman corporation, later known as Hitman Inc. We didn't really get to know why she quit her job yet, but we started to get the idea of how protective Karen is for her kids. Mario Teaches Parenting is an episode which doesn't make any mention of Hitman Inc, but very much does follow up with the idea of Karen being very protective for her kids, as it develops Karen's relationship with her kids throughout the episode. We also start to get the recurring theme of Mario always being in these Karen episodes. Also, I didn't actually pick this one up myself, but in a video that Macroma uploaded, named Karen's new upcoming arc, which you should totally watch by the way, it is pointed out that after Karen yells at her kids, she sees a photo of herself and her kids with a tear in the middle, shown by the expression of empathy and her immediate attempt to resolve what she's done. This symbolizes how Karen not only loves her kids, but how she would do anything to keep her kids with her. Other than that, this episode mainly serves as a character development episode and doesn't really provide a lot of lore information. However, an episode which does contain a lot of lore information is the next episode of this arc, The Father of All Time. This episode mainly bases itself around Karen's kids having this imaginary fight which suddenly turns into a real one. But there are some interesting points of lore we can pick out of this one. First of all, we get to know the corporation's name for the first time, Hitman Inc, when they try calling Karen, wanting her to come back to work for them, while Karen obviously refuses, saying that she doesn't want to do the dirty laundry. Secondly, we learn that Karen is literally invincible. Like, I'm not even joking when I say that, because she literally survived a magical force which killed everyone in the playground in its path except her. But then again, this could just be a writing issue, so who knows. Lastly, at the end of this episode, we learn that Karen's kids may have had a father who Karen thinks is reckless and chaotic, thus why he isn't here with Karen and her kids anymore. This is actually a very major plot point which I'll use later in this series, so stay tuned for that. And finally, we're up to Hobo Mario, the episode which appears to be the real start of this consecutive and connected storyline. This episode is probably the most lore-infested one of the Karen arc, as it shows us Karen's past and how she used to be homeless. The episode also follows up on Hitman Inc, as Mario receives a walkie-talkie allowing Hitman Inc to contact Mario and give him a mission, leading on to the next episode. And we can't forget about the part that introduces how Karen got a job in the first place. Something about this episode which really interests me is when Karen says this line.
I wanted to be there, like the mom I never had.
Now I know it's quite self-explanatory that Karen doesn't have parents or doesn't know her parents, especially when we see Karen left alone in a box in the street when she was young, but it does raise an eyebrow to whether this plot point may be expanded upon later in the episodes of this arc. Will we get to see Karen's parents? Who knows? And about that thing I was talking about earlier, about the father of Karen's kids, I actually have a theory that... Oh, my apologies. No Noel came up with a very interesting theory that actually makes a lot of sense. In short, Karen's husband, who possibly worked at Hitman Inc. with Karen while also quitting their jobs once they had children, was sent off by Karen and her kids as he was being too reckless and chaotic to the kids, leaving him with the idea of joining back or even taking over Hitman Inc. in hopes of locating and reuniting with his kids. I personally think that this is a very well constructed theory just because it makes a lot of sense and would also establish the interesting storyline for the upcoming Karen arc. So with this information, let's try to make a summary of everything we know about the Karen lore so far. Karen was an abandoned child left on the streets to live homeless for most of her life. That's until she gets an offer of a lifetime to kill people for a living at Hitman Inc. While working at Hitman Inc, Karen meets her now parted husband and has kids named Zach, Corey, and Katie. Because of this, Karen and her husband choose to quit their jobs in order to focus on their own kids. However, the husband is soon left on his own due to Karen believing that he's a bad parent, enabling him to rejoin Hitman Inc, taking the company's control into his own hands in dreams of hopefully reuniting with his children. But hey, oh wait, this is the wrong channel for this, isn't it? Well, who cares anyways. This video is probably already proven wrong because I literally posted it right before the release of an SMG4 episode. Subscribe to the channel please so you can be notified for any more theories that come up from this channel, please.